So last episode, we got to learn about Sam's trip all the way from Canada through South America on a motorcycle, and really how it got to be that he became an Airbnb host. This episode, he's taking us somewhere new. We're going to talk about what he actually does to run his business and what he does differently than other hosts around the world.
Yeah. Let's go. So what do you do differently, I think? So what do you think you do differently from other hosts that is kind of like maybe you could call it a secret sauce. Like, what do you think you do better than other hosts?
What do we do different at LifeAFAR? It's about providing a predictably convenient experience in a unique location.
Okay.
Right? So I think that's how we separate ourselves from rolling the dice on an Airbnb. You know, maybe you get a super host, that's great, you get a great experience, but maybe you don't, right? So we have that consistent inventory available. When it's time to go to one of our locations, you're gonna know you're gonna have a very clean bathroom. It's gonna be professionally cleaned. You're gonna have a WhatsApp concierge who's gonna be able to help you with what you need to do. We've got everything in place so that you can have a good experience.
So access, right? You said, because one word was consistency or convenience.
Yeah.
Convenience was the word. So access, convenience.
Yes.
You said predictability, which is somewhat like a reliability,
Yes.
right? And then you said unique locations, right? So those are like your big three, is you are reliable, easily accessible, and the experience is going to be unique.
Yeah, and I would add to that 24-hour reservations, so you can at any time of the night get fast responses, right? That's a big indicator on Airbnb for ranking properties, but it's also something we have just because we have that economy.
So your concierge team is 24-hour access.
Yes.
Cool.
Yes.
That's hot. That's hot.
Yeah.
Yeah, we cut off at midnight. We actually put in our house rules, check-ins and concierge communication cuts off at midnight, because it is a little intensive to try to manage that midnight to 9 a.m. It's just a lot of resource.
So check-ins, check-outs, that's a bit more complicated. I think there's an extra fee if you do want to have that, but in terms of reservations, that's 24 hours.
Okay, so you take the we can do anything at a cost approach.
Yeah. Sure.
That's smart. That's
Sure.
absolutely smart.
Yeah.
Like we don't charge for like early check-in, but we'll charge for late checkout because of the damage it could do to our flow.
Okay.
Somebody requests early check-in, we're like, well, if we can get you in early, we will. But somebody wants to check out late. If we can't give them permission and they check out late, they're like screwing up our housekeepers, so we'll charge for that. Those are like the types of, like, fees are a big thing. Airbnb won't enforce fees, like they don't guarantee it after somebody checks in.
Yeah.
But if somebody wants to pay you a fee before arrival for something, like Airbnb will enforce that, we found out.
Yeah, it's something to be careful about, because I am noticing that the way Airbnb shows pricings, you may think you're going cheaper, but with all the extra fees added on, I am seeing or hearing that the market is looking at, wow, it's almost competitive with hotels now, so with all those extra fees through the booking,
Yeah, but you know what they say, second money is easier to get than first money.
That's right.
So you get somebody kind of committed at the base rate, and they're like, oh, cleaning fee, Airbnb fee, and that's why they do it. But Airbnb, I don't know if you knew this, they're testing in beta the option to not have any fees, where the host incurs it all like Booking.com does.
Okay.
So you can have 100 a night, and then if a guest goes to book, they don't see it. They see actually a little fire symbol, and they slash the fees out, and they're like, no fees. And so Sonder's trying to use it. And I think the reason why big companies like ours would is if you do get a lot of Booking.com bookings, and you get a lot of other platform bookings, and they all charge the host for the fees anyway. Trying to do your pricing management, if Airbnb adds on and is the only platform to add on prices, extra fat, then it makes it hard for you to like unify your prices.
Definitely.
I think it's a bad idea to incur all the fees that way. I think it's a better pricing strategy to add on a cleaning fee on the back end and add on Airbnb fees on the back end, because you get the guest kind of like ready to book with you first. But for the sake of managing cross-platform, I think that's why they developed that, and it makes sense.
Yeah, I think the data is gonna show what's gonna happen in the end, right? I mean, the algorithms are getting very advanced. The way that you're able to test conversions now, I'm sure the best solution will win.
Yeah. So do you use Channel Manager, any sort of softwares that you like?
We've recently switched to Avantio.
Avantio?
Yeah.
I've never heard of Avantio.
Okay.
Do they specialize international? Or no?
I don't know about specialized, but they were the most appropriate for our systems, right? As you get larger, you do get a bit it's a bigger process to switch. And working with some of these tweaks is, I would say, one of the most important parts. Finding one with the features that you need, but then also having the ability to make tweaks as you need it. Because if you look at the algorithms and the platforms of Airbnb and Booking, and you see how they're using rankings, reviews, special pricing strategies. Like the more dynamic your platform, the higher your conversion rate's going to be. But when you go with these management systems, you're left with their template. So it's up to what you get, and so that's why having the ability to make tweaks is very important, I think, because that's going to, especially at larger economies, a larger number of properties, larger inventories, that's where you're going to make big differences with small tweaks.
Yeah, because if it affects 50 potential bookings this week, you know what I mean? Every little bit counts at that point. Yeah, so I don't have a recommendation for people on channel managers yet. I've been slow to make a commitment. Okay. I don't want to be like, oh yeah, this is a great one. Yeah, and then like have everybody go, Sean, there's a better one out there. Yeah. I'm kind of slow to ever commit to.
And that's, I'm not officially endorsing them.
Well, no, it's good to know what you are using.
It's a recent. I would say we're still testing it out, but it seems to be pretty good so far.
Cool. Yeah, that's important. It's still so new. What we do is so new that sometimes is the best information you can give somebody. Be like, hey, I'm still learning. Yeah. Here's where I am at in the learning process. Mm-hmm. I just made this mistake last week, and here's what I'm doing now. Yeah. I think that's great. Yeah. So thanks for that.
Now, it's not all sunshine and rainbows trying to Airbnb in Colombia. Sam takes us to a very traditional local almuerzo joint for lunch. That's what almuerzo means in Spanish. We talk about the red tape and the obstacles when trying to Airbnb in one of the most upcoming third world countries in the world.
Here in Colombia, lunch is the biggest meal of the day. Some places are half like mini supermarket and half restaurant. This is kind of a little bit of everything. Half tienda, half bakery, half restaurant. So we're going to have a pretty local set lunch. It's a menú del día. It's a predetermined soup. You usually get a couple options, right? But you get a soup, you get a main meal, you get a juice. It's all packaged into one affordable deal for lunch.
That's awesome. That's cough. I just noticed they're selling cough drops back there. You're right. You're right. It is a market. Yeah. That's pretty wicked. Man, I love the weather though. It's insane.
Yes.
I'm surprised though, like you said earlier while we were walking, about the price difference between like the unfurnished and furnished homes.
Yes.
So the rent, where we're staying, that you're like, by the way, thanks for letting me stay there. The place is awesome. So the rent could be like as little as $1,000 for a 3-bedroom, unfurnished.
In this nice part of town, it'd be hard to find, but yeah, from $1,000 up to $2,000, and then you've got your higher end. That could be even more. So.
But then in average neighborhoods, like even cheaper, like because we're in like one of the nicest spots.
Oh yeah, 3-bedroom unfurnished. We're in the top 5% of Medellin real estate, right?
Yeah. So you're talking about the tax tiers.
Yeah. You've got Laureles, you've got Envigado, Sabaneta. They're also popular with foreigners, but they're going to be cheaper than El Poblado.
Yeah, that's wild. And then after you furnish it, the markup is just insane.
Yeah, there's a huge premium. Your returns have traditionally been 2 to 3 times more for a short-term furnished rental as opposed to a long-term 1-year unfurnished rental.
Cool. And actually, surprisingly, that's not terribly out of line with the U.S. market, right? Okay. So we pay $1,300 for a 1-bedroom, and we'll pull $2,800, $3,100 out of it.
Okay.
So yeah, 2.4, 2.6, I think is more of our average spread there.
Yep.
So yeah, getting 2 to 3x is like right on cue. But bigger properties. Here's one thing I did notice about Colombia: there's no properties that have any real substantial amount of beds. Like your 3-bedroom is one of the largest we've seen on Airbnb.
Sure.
But you still only have 3 beds and a couch.
Yeah.
And that's it. My biggest property on Airbnb in Houston is a 3-bedroom, and it makes about $10,000 a month. But we have 5 beds in the bedrooms, a couch that can sleep 2 people, And then I think we might even have a couple of rollaway beds. So we advertise that we can sleep 16 people. And it was a massive floor plan, 3-bedroom.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's what I've noticed. You make more money, the more people you can sleep.
Sure. Here it's been like there's older properties that have those larger apartments, that 4, 5, 6 bedroom. But right now, this Medellin market, especially in El Poblado, it's so in demand for these short-term rentals that, gracias.
Thank you.
There's a shortage of those type of apartments, and a lot of the newer buildings that are being purpose-built for Airbnb, if you look at it from the building perspective, you'll generally find higher returns from smaller units. So having a building of a 1 bedrooms is going to have a higher occupancy rate. You're going to have a higher return per square meter. As opposed
the
to
studios, 1 bedrooms cost
larger
less
units.
to get in. You can get more than per square foot of build. That makes sense. But I would speculate, because there's so few properties that can host groups of 10 or 12, like legitimate groups of 12, you'd crush.
Yeah.
Like if you have a few properties that can host 12 people here, you'd absolutely just massively crush it.
I agree.
Because nobody else can do it. And that's the supply and demand curve, right?
Yeah.
There's a point where it just dissipates. There's 300 properties that can host 3 people, 200 properties that can host 5, 100 properties that can host 7, and then 10 properties that can host 9 or something. It just drops off like a cliff. Yeah. So
But
if
then,
I was
but
going to
then,
get in here.
after another cycle comes through, 5, 6, 7 years later, it's going to flip around the other way, as the supply and demand eventually levels out. So.
Yeah. That's an interesting part about Airbnb, is because there's growth on both sides, suppliers and travelers,
Yes.
right?
Yes.
And they're never in tandem. So somebody's winning at one point in time. So there's going to be a time where, as a host, you're just crushing it, and then there's times where there's a massive amount of host growth, and then now you're competing with hosts for bookings. But yeah, that constantly flows back and forth. In the United States, I see that in all my cities. Thank you.
Okay, buen provecho.
Is this the lemonade?
This would be the lemonade right
There
here.
we
This
go.
would be the tomate de árbol, the tree tomato.
Interesting.
Salud.
Well, cheers.
Yeah.
I'm going to go with my very Anglo lemonade. The interesting part about doing Airbnb here is because it is highly tourism driven. So unlike the States, you're saying you have to have permits, and you have to give the identities of all your travelers to the city, which
to the Dion. You've got to register each guest. The hotel industry has requested that the Airbnb industry complies with a lot of the laws and taxes that they have to comply with.
That's fair.
So it is fair. So in Colombia, if you're buying a property, you do need to make sure that the building, the HOA, has specifically stated that rentals less than 30 days is allowed. And you need a registration with the RNT, which is with the National Tourism Board, that allows you to rent it short term.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of paperwork.
So
and
building
processes
zoning
that come with it.
required.
Yes.
HOA permissions.
Yes.
Registration with the city.
Yes. Yes.
Yeah, it's a lot of tape.
It is.
It's a lot of tape.
It is. It is. So there's been some crackdown because at first it came in. I'd say over the last 10 years it's been cracked down in terms of some situations.
Wow, they are fast here.
Excellent.
Look at that. Thank you so much.
Gracias.
There's been a lot of crackdown because there's a bunch of hosts that weren't following the rules. That's common.
There's some, so some of the building administrators will get a fine if someone's running an Airbnb in the property that doesn't have the permission to be doing so.
The zoning.
Yes. Well, the zoning, but also the RNT licensing.
So how does the administrator stop the tenant or occupant or owner?
Well, the threat is that if an admin is caught allowing one of their property or apartment owners to rent an Airbnb without the licensing, that they can get a fine as well.
But how does the administrator stop the owner then? What's their recourse? What power do they have?
Reporting it or stopping it or
report it.
reporting it.
Okay,
Yeah,
so
yeah.
they may not actually have real power
How
to
much
stop it.
that's being enforced, who knows?
Yeah.
Well,
that's how London gets away with it. London has had a terrible track record of enforcing their rent because they have a 90-day restriction. You can host on Airbnb 90 days of the year, but enforcing that has been just a bear, right? And
So what's written in law is often different from what actually happens, and that rings
Yeah,
true in
that
Colombia.
makes a lot of sense.
Big time. Yeah.
so, if somebody wanted to Airbnb here, ownership. Well, I guess because it sounds like there's a great argument for arbitrage just based on the spread that you said, but the registration part is what makes it tricky, right? If there's no enforcement, cool, guns ablaze, just go arbitrage because nobody's enforcing anything. But you would have to rent at a property that is zoned appropriately.
Yep.
Then you also need to register with the city. Multi-units, do they have HOAs?
Yeah. Well, most of them do. Most of
Okay.
them, not all of them.
So in the United States, HOAs really only pertain to like single-family homes or whatever,
Okay.
or very small multi-units.
Yeah.
But like big apartment complexes don't have to deal with HOAs. But here, it's possible that even larger apartment complexes have HOAs.
Yeah, and you're going to have 70% of the vote of the building permitting these short-term rentals,
The
right?
tenants of all the building?
Yes.
Wow. So the bigger the building, the harder it is to get
Definitely,
pushed through.
yes. So, I
Dang.
mean, and unless you're working at the very high end of the market, in maybe Cartagena, Medellin, Bogota, you're going to start seeing the ROI that a U.S. investor who's used to investing in properties in the U.S., Airbnb arbitrage style. But outside of that, it's going to be hard to get the same ROI because you are generating the income in pesos, right? You've got the Colombian peso, which is it's on the weaker side of where it's been with the U.S. dollar
Yeah.
in its history, which makes it great for acquisition. But if you're looking for those higher returns, you're either going for the higher end of the market, or you're going for the larger scale, and that's something we've been learning as we've gone along.
Yeah.
So looking at entire buildings, or looking at larger numbers of units where you own the whole building, and therefore you're determining the clauses in the HOA and getting the
Absolutely.
licensing as
That makes sense.
that
So
allows.
while the
short-term
peso
rentals.
is weak, buying into a property to get to hold it is a good maneuver. And you can still Airbnb at a profit, just not nearly as good of a relative profit because the peso is weak.
Yes.
But when the peso becomes strong,
Yes.
then just everybody should be dropping the hammer on trying to generate money in Colombia
Yes.
as the peso
Yeah.
strengthens.
Yeah,
Does that make sense?
it adds an interesting hedge factor to the investment.
That is really cool. And it's crazy that it's so complex. And we won't even get into taxes on this video. But yeah, I was not expecting there to be so much. I mean, it is a different country though. The United States is, in that way, so much easier to work with because you have so much freedom for enterprise. All that red tape sounds like a nightmare.
Yeah, and I would credit our success at LifeAFAR to allowing people an avenue to avoid all of that.
Absolutely, yeah, that
We've
makes sense.
made the process so passive that it's literally a couple documents that we, prepare, and we're doing the due diligence, and this is a foreign language, that can be intimidating for people. We've made this process turnkey.
Yeah.
Investing in passive income, short-term rentals, high yields, we've made it turnkey, and I think the value of that is saving the investor time and
Yeah.
energy of doing it themselves. The potential risk of making mistakes along the way at many different steps along the way that can make a project a lot less profitable than it should be. So I think that's what we owe our success to is saving investors time.
Yeah. And that's an advantage that you have at scale is if you do something over and over and over again, it becomes like the status quo for you. It's not a big deal. A first-time investor going through it's like the first time driving. Like, it's so nerve-wracking.
Yeah.
You're filling out all these documents and trying to what do I do? But if you've done the same deal 100 times, then
Yeah.
for you guys it's much more easy.
Yeah, I mean, if you're going to do it yourself, there's a way to get higher ROI on this type of investment. Going with a company like ours, there's a bit of a premium for it, but that premium is 13 years of experience in this market and doing these kind of deals,
Yeah.
right? So,
And that's you've said it
worth it.
before. I don't think we even talked about it during this official talk, but this LifeAFAR thing is not just solo like you. You don't have 200 something properties just on your own. You've merged with different businesses, and you have different partners who've had their own accounts and own listings.
We're an international team now. 10 different partners. We have over 80 employees across
Yeah, that's solid.
6 cities now, so we're growing. We've got a lot of experience and a portfolio that's really starting to get attention in the international investment community. So
That's cool.
I'm excited about where we're going, and yeah, man, it's a lot of fun doing this.
A lot of
in a
employees.
country like this.
Yeah. Yeah. Portugal and San Juan, Old San Juan, Puerto Rico.
Yep.
Yeah.
Porto in Portugal in Old San Juan. Beautiful
Yeah.
there. And that one is actually in an opportunity zone, which is a U.S. incentive to invest
cool.
in lower income areas. Because of the situation in Puerto Rico, 98% was classified as an opportunity zone. So for U.S. investors, that was such a
That's
huge
big. That's
project.
kind of big news, actually.
Oh yeah.
When did they push that through?
That was over the last 2 years. That's been through. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
I guess, be it that I'm in arbitrage and I never buy anything, that's not information I keep watch on. But that's heavy
Right.
for a lot of people. I mean, because not everybody on my channel is an arbitrager; they buy. So
Yeah.
that's big. That's big news. When is
definitely.
your
So that's just quick summary. Opportunity zone is the ability to roll over unrealized capital gains into a project in a opportunity zone applicable area. So, and that investment will be, there's certain limitations and specifics, but over 10 years you can generate capital gains on your capital gains and not be taxed for that.
So
a
profit
huge
of
tax savings.
profit of your current business? You can take all your profits of
Yes.
your current business, invest in Puerto Rico, not pay taxes on that money, and then whatever you generate for 10 years is also not taxed.
Particular taxes and particular things you're not paying, but you're saving a significant amount, especially
that's killer.
when you talk compounding over 10 years.
That's cool. So when is this Puerto Rico property going to be open to stay in?
We're looking
when
like
can I go?
quarter one next year.
Okay, cool. I got to
Yeah.
wait a whole year.
Yeah.
Jeez.
Yeah. Well, it's a renovation, but it is a landmark property. It's incredible.
That'll be
It was
cool.
actually in a recent J Balvin and Bad Bunny reggaeton music video.
Really?
Yeah,
That's
it was in the background. It was, yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Cool. So I'll have to wait. I can be patient.
Yeah.
I can be patient. I'll wait a year.
Yeah, I mean, it's exciting what we're doing, really.
Yeah.
Like at a time where people are traveling, living, and investing internationally, I think a lot of this business is about timing and having the right product at the right time, and I think that's what we're doing.
That's killer. So we can go get to our lunch. Is there anything that you
should
would like
get
to
in.
tell all the strangers who have seen you possibly for the first time?
Uh-huh.
Maybe some of my audience is already following you, but it's
What more is there to say? I don't know. If you're interested in short-term rental investment, well, I would pay attention to what we're doing. I think there's a lot that could be learned, even if you don't eventually become a guest in one of our 200 properties or become an investor. I think there's a lot to learn. I get around on a motorbike, show you what's happening in Colombia, Puerto Rico, and soon to be Portugal. So. If you'd like to jump over to my channel for some fun, it's Sam LifeAFAR on YouTube. Or if you'd like to check out our rentals or investments, you can find them at sam.lifeafar.com.
and both of those are going to be in the description of this video, so you can just go click on those there.
Right.
Sam,
Let's get
I'm
it.
excited to have my first local Medellin.
Almuerzo casero.
What is the name of that one dish everybody wants? Plantanos de paisa.
Bandeja paisa.
Bandeja paisa.
That
That's
is a
excellent.
filling meal. It is. I think it has 10 ingredients on average, and it's one of my favorite lunches for sure.
Well, if that happens, you'll see it in a future video. But for now, thanks for watching Airbnb Automated with me and Sam.
Thanks for having me, Sean.
I'll see you on the other side.